committees na assembly huko. So this one builds on the next. Ina build kwa hii, rage kila time, rage daily until we get what we want. Saizi public systems collapse. Zimeenda haziko. There's nothing that is working in this country. Nila mtu hapa alienda NSSF kuomba pension ya baba yake for 7 years. We imagine baba yako alikufa 7 years. Lakini 7 years later wewe bado unaenda Nairobi tu kuomba pension kila siku. Na ni pesa yake. Hebu tumenezo request. Natafuta Willis Otieno. I'm looking for Nairobi Senator. Nimeona hapo wamesema wewe ndio ulipitisha bill yenye ina allow state officials kufanya biashara na government. Where are you, sir? Can you come and tell us what's going on? Because haiwezi kuwa kwa TL unatuambia hivi, lakini huku nyuma unavoti hivi. You should come and tell us kwa nini ulipitisha hiyo kitu. Ulikuwa unamaanisha nini na ulikuwa unataka nini? Because you can't be on the TL saying A na huku nyuma kwa wingi unasema B. Na utafuta uko wapi? Goofy nimekupatia mic. Goofy. Nimepata request ya Jimmy Wanjigi hapa tuambie stories za public debt. Juu inaonekana tunalipa debt yenye haiko. Na wanasema hiyo debt register unatua fulani unakubaliwa ku-access. And that's our biggest problem. Because hii register inafaa kuwe public. Nafaa tujue tunalipa pesa ngapi na inaenda wapi. This has been our problem. Nimepatia Goofy Mike, simuoni. Kama nimekupatia Mike, anza kuongea.
Hi guys, asante sana Mr. Amerix for this opportunity and for convening the Citizen Assembly. We are so happy. I'm so happy personally. Nimefurahi sana kuona at last Kenya inaamka, the citizens wanaamka, na tunaona politics si ya wazee, politics si ya crooks, na politics si ya watu wenye hawawezi fanya kitu kingine kwa maisha, because we grew up thinking politics is for the hard knocks in society. Mtu akikwambia nataka kuingia politics, you're like no, don't join politics, hiyo ni ya wakora. But I've been telling people, every time you say that, huyo mkora ndio anaenda charge, watu wanamshangilia, aingia huko anaenda kuaibia. Na nyinyi mko tu hapo mnasema, oh, politics is a dirty game, but it's us who made politics to be a dirty game, because we are allowing people who are hard knocks, people who are kwa society wamekosa kufit in, so they go and become our leaders and make bad decisions for us, and then we start crying. It's time for the citizens to take up the mantle and to stop kusema politics is dirty. People need to go in there and make the decisions we want to see. Venye tu Amerix anasema, oh, someone is from the IMF, another one is from the World Bank. Those people don't care about us. They only care about themselves. Now, ukiangalia, like in France is...
Can I hear you? Ulipotea.
Unanisikia? Hello? Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me? Guys, can you hear me?
Tunakusikia tu.
Mnanisikia? Okay. Sawa. So ninasema hizi many different countries in the world zenye Ruto ana visit. Hizo countries
mtu anabonga kweli, sisikii mtu yoyote akiongea. Mimi nakusikia bro, Amerix.
Hata mimi nakusikia.
Nelson anaendelea.
Okay, nasema hizi countries zote Ruto,
so many, please ukipewa mic just go straight and start talking.
Okay. Hizi countries zote zenye Ruto ana visit, not one country wants to see Africa economically independent. Not one country that Ruto is sending the children of Kenya to go and become slaves want to see an independent Kenya or an independent Africa. We have to fight for our countries. Ruto told us, ametuuza. That's why he wants us to become...
Is anyone talking?
Yes, Amerix, I'm talking. Can you hear me? Amerix,
bro. Nelson,
bro. Anawasikia. Ask him if he can hear you guys. Nyakundi, can you ask Amerix if you can hear you guys speak? Okay, anyway, I'll continue so I can finish and someone else can take over. So this is the right time for us to stand up for ourselves. I've been talking to other people from different parts of the world. Kila time nikiwaambia what is happening in Kenya, they're like, yes, we support you. We know IMF is out to kill Africa and they're out to make us never be economically independent. We have to fight. That freedom can never be handed down to you. You have to fight. And that's why we have to continue fighting. Other people will fall out on the way. They will be traitors. You know, what I look for 30 pieces of silver. But we still have to continue with the cause. And I am so, I have a conviction in my heart that this time, Kenya will change. And we will change it from wherever we are. So thank you so much, Amerix, for this citizen assembly. Let everyone continue to rage on because the prize, tuko karibu kufikia your prize. We are so close.
All right, thank you very much. Asante sana. Am I audible now? Right. Asanteni.
Yeah.
I'm looking for Goofy. Where are you, sir? Uko wapi, brother? Nimemwona. Right. Sawa, chukua mic bro. Take your mic. As we wait for him, I can see Nelson. Nelson, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, Amerix.
Yes, go on, go on. We are on a citizens' assembly, and we want to move forward. We want to use the momentum to move forward and change our country once and for all.
I've just spoken. You can give it to someone else.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Willis. Dennis Ombachi. So mkiunda hizo citizen assembly isikuwa ni politics mnaongea about the revolution of the mind. Unajua revolution of the mind si kusema vile unataka kuwa politician. Tulisema hapa the other day that politicians are not leaders, and they are not. In fact, there is a proposal that if you get into parliament, ulipwe mshahara kulingana na kazi wewe unafanya yenye ulisomea. So watu kama Sudi wasilipwe because hawajasomea kitu. So kama umesomea kitu, if you are a teacher, unalipwa kulingana na hiyo kazi umesomea. What took you to school? If you are a doctor, unaenda bungeni, unakuwa daktari, unalipwa pesa kulingana na profession yako. What you are being paid. Because if you don't do that, watu watakuwa wanaenda bunge because it is an easier way ya kumake pesa, ya kuana salary. So mtu mwenye hajaenda shule alipwe allowances, sitting allowance, transport allowance na vitu kama hizo, committee allowance, food allowance, vitu kama hizo. But salary ulipwe kulingana na ile profession umesomea. So mtu kama Ombachi ni msee wa kupika, so anaenda huko, kazi yake ni kulipwa kulingana na pesa yenye chef analipwa, ama sports people ile yenye ana relate nayo. So mtu analipwa kulingana na what profession you are, so that when you are in that assembly or that parliament, unafanya una vote ama una participate kulingana na profession yako. Kama wewe ni engineer, unaenda huko, unajua kusoma bills zenye zina affect engineering industry, juu unaelewa. Kama wewe ni daktari, hizi madaktari wanasafa kwa nini? Because wale madaktari wenye wako bunge hawaelewi zile pressure na zile problems the current doctors go through. Because saa hizi ukienda kama hospitali, wacha hata madawa, hata tu the environment yenye daktari ana work ni mbaya. Ana gloves, usiku stima ikipotea, hakuna solar, hakuna generator, na anaogopa kutuma mgonjwa aenda nue cotton huko nje, because mgonjwa ataanza kusema sisi tumelipa, tumeambiwa na MCA kuna kitu kwa hiyo hospitali, wewe unatutuma kwa chemist yetu. Madaktari hata hana pesa hata kuanzisha chemist. Kesho MCA anamkujia ati yeye anaiba pesa kwa hospitali, anaenda kupeleka kwa chemist fulani, which is not true. So madaktari wa saa hii wana struggle because wale madaktari wenye kwa bunge hawaelewi zile shida zenye the current doctors go through, because hao hawakupitia hizo issues. Because kitambo ukimaliza tu kusoma, ukimaliza internship, unapostiwa. Sasa hizi mtu anamaliza internship, umesoma 6 years, umeenda internship, umengangana, wote unasumbulana na consultants, wengine wanakata kukusainia logbook yako, umestruggle, umemaliza, haulali. Alafu serikali inakuambia we are not posting you, kaa nyumbani. So kijana anakaa nyumbani, kazi yake tu ni kukaa mtandaoni, kuangalia kitu cha kufanya, crypto, afanye betting, anatafuta pambanye huku na huku, aone hakuna njia nyingine, aenda kufanya CPA. Unajaribu uone pale utapata breakthrough, which is not supposed to be like that. Walimu umesoma, umekuwa mwalimu, you can teach. Saizi JSS haina walimu. Unaenda kwa shule ya primary, iko na wanafunzi 300, walimu ni 2. Huyo ndio mwalimu wa science, ndio mwalimu wa home science, ndio mwalimu wa creative arts, ndio mwalimu wa PE, ndio atafunza language, ndio atapeleka watoto kwa nearby secondary school kwa laboratory, awafunze mambo ya Bunsen burner na microscope. Hakuna walimu. Lakini unasikia watu wanatembea na pesa huku, task force zinafomiwa na nini. Na nimeona hapa Justin Wamae unanifollow. Usikubali hiyo position. Because tumekuwa tukingangana na wewe hapa tukisema watu waandikwe kazi. So ukikubali hiyo position, tutakuweka kwa group moja na politicians that are our enemies. Justin Wamae ni wewe nakuambia, najua you follow me and you are listening. Natafuta mtu wa kuongea.
Nazongea Amerix.
Yeah, go on.
Aya. So recently nimekuwa Portugal na nimetembelea Bosch. Bosch
ni nani? Ni nani?
Ni Nelson. Nimetembelea Bosch. Unajua Bosch?
Yes.
Yenye inatengeneza spare parts, blah blah blah, appliances. So
yes.
I was in Portugal and there is a plant ya Bosch. Hiyo plant ya Bosch employ 4,000 people. And that plant contribute to 1% of Portugal's GDP.
Yes.
Contribute 1.7% of Portugal's exports. Recently, Ruto alisema kuna IT yenye Koriru. IT something yenye Koriru employ 4,000 people. What I fail to understand is how can a whole president be lauding just an ICT center that cannot even account for anything in the GDP of our country? It's not increasing our exports. It's not increasing our GDP. He's just yapping around. Instead, as a president, we have this industry coming up. It's going to employ 4,000 people, 5,000 people. It's going to contribute such and such a figure to the GDP of our country. It's going to contribute this percentage to our exports. As in, you cannot compare the 4,000 people that are being employed by that ICT facility that Ruto keeps talking about and the Bosch factory that is employing the same amount of people but has so much value. In short, what I'm trying to say is Ruto is hoodwinking us with very stupid things instead of focusing on the main thing, which is industrialization. We need industrialization in Kenya, not this ICT center. Service economy will not take us anywhere. The economy we want is an industrialized economy. Africa trades, intra-Africa trade is only 15%. Can you imagine? Africans trade amongst themselves is only 15%. The rest, we trade with China, we trade with the US, we trade with the EU. There is 85% market that is untapped in the African market. Ata tu East Africa peke yake, we are about 500 million people, untapped market. Instead of him focusing on this, telling us we are going to create industries that will cater for this market. Anakuambia venye atatu export kwenda Saudi Arabia. He is not focusing on the real thing. And what you've said is very true. He has super incompetent people in power with him who are not professionals. They cannot even advise him right. They don't have the know-how to do policies that will bring about industrialization in our country. In Portugal, when I was visiting this Bosch factory, tulienda pia kwa vocational training schools, which are practically dead in Kenya. But there, the vocational training colleges are free. They're funded by the EU. So what happens when someone finishes grade 9? You have two options. Either you go to high school and then you go to university, or unachagua kwenda vocational training. You become a mechanic, you mechatronic engineer, you become any, these blue-collar jobs so that you can go and work in companies, and you go and do other technical jobs. But in Kenya, everyone is aiming towards the university. It doesn't make sense because university see technical skills. We need more people to go to vocational training, and those are the drivers of they're the engine of our economy basically. But hakuna industries za watu kuwork. Wanataka tumalize shule, tuende Saudi Arabia, tuende Germany, tuende tujenge nchi nyingine instead of building our own country. So for me, as you said, we need a complete change of the CSs, the MPs, and we put in people who understand what they're doing, who are professionals in those fields. When they speak, at least these people know what they're saying, and we are headed the right direction. Right now, everyone, even someone illiterate, knows that Kenya is not headed in the right direction. You can all tell that we are either stuck or heading in the complete wrong direction.
Thank you very much. Billy Mia, I can see you. Niaje bro, Billy?
Mimi niko fiti sana. Good evening guys.
Good evening, good evening.
Uko poa?
Uko fiti?
First of all, thank you so much for this space for the Citizen Assembly. And as a Kenyan right now, I'm really weeping, you know. It is sad to be a Kenyan. It is painful to be a Kenyan. And it is so shameful that we have very, very incompetent MPs, incompetent governors, incompetent ministers. It is so shameful. These are the times that as a Kenyan you feel that you don't even want to tell people that you are a Kenyan. It is so sad that you take someone who is a class 8 dropout and you give them a fucking whole ministry. They don't even know what to do in that ministry. They don't even know what to do. They don't even know what to achieve. They don't even know the policies that they're supposed to put there to make sure combat things work. As it is right now, if someone is keen and if people are observing well, this country is headed to the right direction. Tukifinya na tufinye jinsi tunavyofinya peacefully, we're going to head in the right direction. Now, the youth of this country, na ningependa sana niweze kuongea na vijana wa nchi ya Kenya. I'm speaking to you from a position of know-how. This is a time that Kenya is facing a revolution that is very peaceful and with a little blood that is going to be shed. It pains me jana ambao wanaitwa mahali usiku, wanapewa shilingi 1,000 kwa bwana, kesho the people are going to the streets. Let's make sure our riot, let's make sure our semi yonda kusema. You're being used by a leader who gave your mom 50 bob or a packet of unga to vote for them. If you divide that 50 bob with 5 years, how much is it? How much is it? Yani inauma sana kwamba kama kijana watu wamejitokeza, they start making changes in this country. But wewe unaitwa na mwanasiasa anakupatia rungu, then they give you 1,000 bob and you sell your soul for 1,000 shillings. Yet we are fighting for something that's going to change the future of this nation. I've never seen an incompetent government like the one we have right about now. I am in the media industry. I've been in the media industry for about 18 years right now. The Kenyan governments have refused to pay money owned by these media houses. Standard is suffering. MediaMax is suffering. Raw Media Services is suffering. Even international media houses are suffering because of some debts and very bogus policies that have been put up by these regimes. Na hii government ya sasa ndio yani inachoma kila siku, Na unapata vijana ambao wamesoma, wana akili, wanafikiria, they accept peanuts and they start blogging for the state. Yet what you are fighting for is going to even help them and their children and their future generations, you know. Sometimes unaona mtu kama Mutai Abraham anaongea kitu najiuliza, is this guy normal? Doesn't he know that we are fighting for a common good for this country? You know, and every person ambaye alijitokeza kwenye maandamano, every person that is on the streets, they are not goons. They are people who are fighting for the future of the country. So, I want to request my fellow Kenyans, let's support these guys. Tufinye mahali ambayo inahitajika, and these leaders, they should not get a chance to speak in any forum. Yani MP yoyote amekuja kwenu hata anaika mkutano anataka kuongea, tufinye asiongee if at all they've not done any development in that area. The promises they made while we were voting for them, kama hawajafanya hata moja, they should not be allowed to speak. This country needs to be very hot for these ministers and cabinet secretaries and MPs, governors. It doesn't matter the side of the political divide. If they've not done what they're supposed to do, they don't even deserve to be called honorable members. They are not honorable because we woke up very early in the morning. We voted for them, thinking they're going to change this country. But they are giving us mediocrity, and it's very painful, by the way. We cannot be transferring teachers, doctors, even police officers, for heaven's sake. You know, we have issues that are disturbing us in this country. So my fellow youth, tafadhali, tufinye mahali ambayo inahitajika, tufinye pressure mpaka wajue kwamba we are the people that are in charge, we are the people that have power. And let's make sure we take votes. Toka, nenda uchukue kura. Chukua kura, kana silaha yako. Ikifika 2027, even if it's a real mama mboga ambayo tutampatia UMP, tujue kwamba ni mama mboga tumempa, na atakuwa accountable to the citizens, and they do what they're supposed to do. What has happened in the recent past? People have loyalty to the party leader and the party. They don't have loyalty to the people who elected them. Unaanza kuringia watu kwamba Mungu amekusaidia umepata gari. Yet it is our taxes ambazo tunalipa zinaporwa, zinaibiwa, alafu unakuja unatuingia. Unasema una vote yes kwa sababu president amesema. Did the president vote for you? It's a fucked up country. It is so painful.
1,000 times again.
My fellow youth, kindly.
And we'll rise up.
And listen good.
We'll rise up.
Tafadhali, chukua kura. Make sure kwamba ikifika mwaka 2027 tunapeleka viongozi wote nyumbani, wote. Usitumike kuzima azma ya Wakenya ambao wakati wako ukifika. Asante. Thank you so much.
Today, every day I receive tons and tons of messages from heartbroken young. You read these messages, then you ask yourself if this country has policies to support young people. There is something in this country called the National Youth Council. Do you know that thing? The secretary of that National Youth Council is a 42-year-old person. Yet that council is supposed to be run, the secretary is supposed to be a young person, 35 years and below. You people know about National Youth Council. Yet hii kitu inaendelea kukula pesa ya serikali kila siku. Hakuna mtu anaongelea hiyo kitu. Tunanyamaza tu, watu wakikula pesa, wakienda wakipewa budget, wakitumia pesa siku 2-3, hizo ndio pesa wanapeana huku kina Shalini wakikimbia nayo huku, wakisema wanasaidia vijana. The National Youth Council need to be transformed. Ikuwe ya vijana. Uko 45 years na uko hapo unarana hapo, unafanya nini hapo?
It's easy to say, but it's never the
Goofy, I've seen you. Karibu.
way you numbed all the pain.
Hey guys.
It bleeds.
Go on.
Hey, can you hear me?
1,000 times of living life.
Yes, we can hear you. Go on.
I've been trying to get onto this space for
I see you. We gon' walk it out. Ooh.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go on.
There's someone's mic that is on. I'm getting noise. What about there? Yeah, can you just like go off if you're the one who's putting on the music? All right. Yeah, perfect. Hi guys, my name is Goofy. I am a performing poet and filmmaker based in Nairobi, Kenya. Essentially, I'm an entertainer, and the thing that I need you guys to know is we have a history of forgetting real fast. But the good thing about art is art uses whoever is there to document the times, to cement history and document anything that cannot be published. And through art, we have musicians, we have poets, we have filmmakers. And the one thing that I noticed about this revolution is it caught everyone off guard, especially the leaders. But us as the people, we knew it was brewing, we knew it was coming, we just didn't expect it to be this soon. The thing that I want to say is we should not forget. People have been shot, they're dead, some have been buried, some are still in jail, some have injuries, and the leaders are still as arrogant as they were. Because the narrative that is being pushed right now is Ruto is listening to the people. Well, he's not. The space does not. To other people in other African countries, it looks like he's reaching out to us, but in essence, we know what is happening. He is just milking it dry so that the PR works for him. But we should not forget, whatever is being said here is we should go get our votes. We should hit ourselves on these things because we have the power, and there's nothing that beats a citizen that is united, and we're united right now. The June 25th demonstrations really rattled everyone. It rattled the government real bad, and we should keep that pressure. With that said, I was requested to do a piece, a poem, spoken word, and this is called To Live Here. To live here is to live in fear. You don't know if this life is yours. You don't know if you own anything else that isn't your thoughts. Your mind might be the only place that feels like home, but only if you don't share your raging thoughts. Here, the loud ones, the smart ones, the nosy ones, they disappear here. The trees in Kikuyu and the bushes in the Mau know more about missing people than the ones who took them here. We wish trees could speak, but they too are being cut down here. Trees wish we could speak, but we too are being gunned down here. We forget names like Willie Kimani, Baby Pendo. Here, you can be shot whether you are a lawyer, a taxi driver, or unauza nyama pare gara. Here, if you are a young man aged 19 to 22 who likes wearing faded jeans that are torn on the knees and seemingly a good OD dancer, you'll be shot here. Your death won't mean a thing to a police unit that's funded by your taxes here. Body bags have more work than the youth of this place here. The country eats its own people. 1 minute you're with them, the next you're dead and gone. A moment of silence for Evans Njoroge. To live here is to embody Koleka Putuma. Collective amnesia stays within us. Here, we forget to count after every 5 years. Here, leaders manipulate the votes and pass it out as the voice of the people. People with no voices, people with no choices, people with no health care, no security, or an average life standard. Here, the only cues we respect are the ones found along tribal lines. Here, we are one. Foolish people. Here, thieves use their loot as manifestos to kickstart their careers. Here, thieves appear in top 30, 40, and 50, and the top 30, 40, and 50. Here, golf gets more funding than the education kitty. To live here is to constantly think of death. Here, you have to look right, then left, then right, then left while crossing a one-way road. To live here is to constantly think of death. Here, you can get a brain surgery when you checked in with a cold. Here, cartels run a hospital. Here, criminals own a hospital. Here, rapists have a hospital. Here,
You have to light a candle after the many deaths we invite into our lives here. We are experts in instant rage, but amateurs in following up here. We forget more what hurts us as a people and always remember the silly stuff here. We are comfortable with heavy taxation, a rogue police unit, suppression of free speech, unequipped hospitals, corrupt officials, a dormant constitution, selective human rights, a fast-ending forest cover, privately owned killer dams, deaths upon deaths and deaths upon deaths. This is the life we live. And the people they've killed, I'm going to say their name: Rex Masai, Dr. Margaret, Evans Kiratu, Franco Koth, Nick Adams, Eric Njeru, David Chege, Ian Kerr, Belinda Acheng, Beasley Kamau, Edwin Otieno. Say their names: Erickson Mutisia, Eric Otieno, Credo Oyaro. Say their name: Eric Sheni, Emmanuel Tata, Ibrahim Kamau, Kennedy Onyango. I've said your names, and these are the ones we know. We live as Kenyans fighting for your spirit, fighting for your life until we get a better Kenya. To live here is to live in fear, but we don't have to live in fear. We have the power to tafinya mpaka Zakayo ashuke. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. I really promote artists. I respect artists because we cannot have a mental revolution without artists talking to us and reminding us where we've come from. The reason why they are diverting the study of history, literature, anthropology, sociology, philosophy, civics, social ethics, psychology. The reason why these subjects, the establishment calls them useless subjects, is because these are the subjects that promote citizen awareness, they sensitize citizens, they awaken them, they unite them, because they call you to your spiritual consciousness. Without spiritual consciousness, we cannot achieve anything. The protestation that we've been experiencing the last 3 weeks is because we have joined together as a generation through a spirit of liberation. We want to liberate ourselves from the chains of tyranny. We want to liberate ourselves from the imperialism in parliament. We want to liberate ourselves from the mockery and the contempt coming from the mouths of politicians, careless, reckless, useless politicians, heartless, tearless, callous, stone-hearted, cold-hearted, no-hearted. They steal our resources every day. They steal our taxes. And when you ask them, they shoot you. They buy bullets, but they can't buy food. They buy tankers, but they can't buy water tanks. Our children are struggling. Our mothers are pained. Our fathers are hopeless. While these callous politicians sit in big hotels, and even they have hotels in the parliament so that they can eat after vomiting on us, then they vomit again and vomit again. And when you ask them why they are vomiting, they diarrhea on you through reckless and callous statements. They don't care about you. They don't care about us. They care about nothing. They care about their wallets. When it is about them, they unite. They speak in one voice to pass that bill that raises their salary, to pass that bill that gives them access to public resources. But when it's about you and me, they don't sit in the chambers. We are only left with the judiciary chambers, where we go begging for justice. Yet we've been told in our national anthem that justice is our shield and defender. Why do they take it away from us? Why should we bend? Why should we beg? Why should we cry for justice? Why? Why should we beg for the president to listen to us? He's not deaf. And we are not ENT doctors. We are citizens. Listen to us. Don't kill us. You can beat us with a stick, but we shall stick together in a spirit of liberation. We want to liberate ourselves, and this is not about me and you. This is about the generation that is coming behind us. They will be asking us, Father, Mother, we gave you this future. What did you do with it? The future does not belong to me and you. The future belongs to those behind us. It is them that have given us this future so that we take care of it on their behalf. And when they are adults, they will ask us, you let us down. Daddy, Mommy, you let us down. You didn't fight for us. We don't have a future. We don't have a country. They'll be looking at our country and say, here lies the ruins. Here lies a country that used to be called Kenya. Looted, dehydrated by the powers that be. If we don't build together in a spirit of liberation, going to the street in protestation, raising our voices, clenching our fist, and asking what belongs to us, the political class will continue eating, looting, and destroying our future as we look at them. It's time to mobilize our energy. Whatever you do, whatever thing you are, whoever you are, it is time to mobilize our energy. We need to drain the swamp because the swamp cannot sustain our future anymore. The swamp is polluted by rats, snakes and toads, crocodiles, parasites. We must drain the swamp. No matter how many days it takes, that swamp has to be drained.
Eric,
Next speaker.
Interrupt you.
Yes.
So yeah,
Your mic is off.
Sorry to interrupt you, bro.
Go on.
I totally agree with your views. I feel like art must certainly play a major role in any kind of movement, especially this kind of movement that we have here in Kenya right now, because it is a very unique kind of movement. I don't think in the history of protests and we've never seen this kind of movement before, because it is just very purely organic and stemming from all sections of the country. So it's not centered on anyone. So I would like, before I briefly proceed, to thank the previous speakers. I think the words that we've had here have struck a very deep chord within us all. I feel like those words were speaking to each and every one of us who is part of this movement, because we are at a very critical stage. We have seen so many things happening in the last few weeks. We've had some very high moments in the movement. And when I say the movement, I call it the movement because when you call them protests, protests can be about a thing. Protests can be about something, you know. But this movement, it's bigger than the protests, because it's not even about the youth that have been on the streets. I feel like the message has transcended throughout every young Kenyan. And no matter what part of the country you're in, it's a movement that is spread across counties. We saw people showing up and speaking out in all parts of the country. So It's not moved by tribe. It's not moved by social class. I don't want to get too much into that. So for now, I will agree. Art is going to play a major role in this movement. Like we saw today, the concert was a very nice example of how art can play a very major role in any kind of movement, because we have to bring out our creative side, because that is what they try to suppress first, because they have to suppress your creative side. They have to suppress the things that make you who you are. So, but the point is, we are at a very critical stage of the movement, because we've seen the state trying to instigate malls into the movement. We've seen many things happening. So right now, the truth, so much is going on. It might be a bit confusing for some of us. The information overload might be getting to us a bit, but you have to stay focused, because in every movement, there's always going to be pushback from whoever you're demanding accountability from. In this case, we're demanding accountability from the state. Not for one thing. We are demanding accountability for many things. And so the situation has become so complicated that it's the view of the majority of Kenyans that, yes, we do have so many problems, and at this stage, the only way to fix it, the only solution right now is to start afresh. We need like a complete turnover of everything. So you cannot try to shift the ideas of the movement, or try to bring side shows into the movement. So we saw recently what happened. I'm going to try and get a bit straight to the point, because I know the majority of people on this space, they are social media users. We had Billy speak some moments earlier, very esteemed journalist, a man we all know him very well. But this movement cannot be pinned down into one thing or one leader or one other thing. But Billy made a very interesting point. He noted that some people are getting paid to go and cause chaos in this protest. I want to assure Billy that this movement started on social media. And I'm sure the people who are on this, tuned into this space right now, none of them would even have the time to get out there, unless if there are malls planted here to listen. That's a different case. But the people here, I'm sure the people here, they were part of this movement from the beginning. So there are people who are 100% true and true to the movement. So you made a good point. Yes, it's unfortunate that some people will accept petty cash from the state to push agendas. But the main point here is we have to stay focused. So we saw the state will always try to infiltrate any movement against them, as we've seen time immemorial in Kenya. If you follow this account, you've seen today a video we posted today about the anti-government movement in the 90s. So we saw people like Wnergy getting arrested on trumped-up charges. We saw the state clamping down really hard on any kind of dissent. So that will always happen. In this case, the movement started on social media. The movement was online. So definitely the main targets will be the main social media figures. So that's where it started. So we saw recently, some guys are saying, oh, some people in the movement are traders. I will not mention names, but just to be clear, to stay focused. So this will always happen, and do not put too much. Do not let your heart be demotivated. Do not put too much thought into these things. They will always happen. But the good thing with this movement is, no matter what comes at us, no matter how many diversions they try to create within us, it's decentralized. So we will always find a way to move forward. So
Thank you very much.
Yeah, just to be clear. So guys, do not that the main point of the movement is to stay focused, and we try to find a way forward, which we will eventually.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So before Goofy, the poet, came, I was saying that I receive a lot of messages. I don't know if politicians also receive these messages. Very broken young men and women. For example, today I received just in the last 30 minutes, I've received 10. And it's very hard. Let me read some few so that I understand what I'm talking about. There are so many. I can't point out on which one I can just pin on. But there are issues of, for example, this one is Victor. He tells me, morning, bro, this was around 8. To be brutally honest, I am hungry. And if you can just help me some little cash, I get something for myself, I'll be thankful, Amerix. So because of the volume of messages, I didn't read. So he sent another one at around 4. Hello, Amerix. I see you are back. Please assist me, sir. I asked him what is his name and number. He gave him the name and the number. And of course, I'm going to see if I can, how much I can support him, and of course, talk to him and see where he can be assisted. These are the symptoms of structural failure. The system has failed a generation. And if this is not fixed, we're going to have a time bomb. Those young men you saw in the streets, they're going to be a very, very dangerous bomb. The government has to take action. It has to listen to them. Iwasikize. Kwa nini kataa kuwasikiza? Shida iko wapi? Wakisema cabinet ni mbaya, imebeba uchafu, fagia. Where's the problem? Wakisema parliament ikuwe reconstituted. Where's the problem? 70% ya hii population tuko nayo Kenya ni watu wa young people. Gen Z na millennials, I think they're around 55%, something like that. Gen Z's are 30 something, 34. The other one's in 21. So why can't these politicians listen to them? Walienda hapa juzi ndio wana Senate wakiongea, wakipontificate, they disappeared. We don't see them. Sasa hizi scandal limewapata. 24 of them walivote bill sijui ya nini, I don't know what it was, to allow state officials to do with business with government. I've not read it, so I don't want to comment so much on it. I was waiting for Nairobi Super Senator to be here. Sijamuona. So niko na hizi messages mingi. Na hii ni symptom ya shida tuko nazo kama country. Kuna mwingine ameniambia hapa, boma yao ilivunjwa huko Mavoko. Serikali ilivunja boma yao. Hiyo iko wapi? Alafu kuna hii issue ya JSS. Hiyo ni kitu inaniuma sana as a Kenya. Because kama tuna promote CBC, na the crux of CBC, as in the core of CBC ni hiyo JSS. Kwa nini serikali siweke tu pesa enough i-employ JSS of kutosha? Unaenda primary school hapa unapata watoto 300 na walimu 3. Na hiyo shule hata ina resources. Laboratory wanaenda kwa neighboring school, high school. Basketball wanaenda kucheza kwa neighboring school. Wamandiki wapo swimming hawana, lazima waende kwa mtoni. Wanakuvuka kwa mtoni huko kwa village. Walimu wanawafuata na kitabu. Ule anaruka sana anaandika. Ule anaruka vibaya anaangusha. Anaruka kwa mtoni. So ukiruka kwa mtoni au umena nyoka, what will you say? Why are we doing this to our citizens? Watu wanalipa kodi, tunalipa kodi. Usipolipa kodi imelipwa juzi, unakujiwa. People are doing business. Sasa inabidi ufute watu. When I started my clinic last year, I had 8 employees. Sasa niko na 4. Just 4. Hao wengine niliwaambia sana, mimi mtaka hapa nitashinda kuwalipa. Mtasema mimi ni toxic employer. So nyinyi afadhali muende mjue tu hatuna kazi. Kuliko mkaenge hapa, mna expect niwalipe tarehe 1 na mimi napata pesa tarehe 25. hakuna vile nitawasaidia. Hata wanaona vile biashara ziko, wanasema yenyewe it is true. Daktari Mbiti ako hapa, ako na hospitali, ameifunga na amepump hapo I think 18 million shillings. Ijamaliza hata 1 year, ameifunga. Ndio ameshindwa kulipa rent. So inabidi sasa hata huyu landlord amerealize, huyu akitoka hapa nitapata nani? So imebidi aite Mbiti wakae chini, wasikizane vile atalipa rent. Because environment ya biashara iko chini. Manufacturing sector imekufa. Agriculture. Mimi wana watu hapa wakisema ati tourism ndio number 1, I don't know tourist. Hatutaki tourists. Wanatusaidia na nini? Tumekuwa na tourists kuanzia miaka zote. Tumeua our tourist destination, tumegrab land, tumeharibu. Why can't we focus on something like agriculture? Kwa sababu agriculture kwa Waafrika ndio the basis ya economy. Ukiangalia economy za Africa zina grow because of agriculture. Lakini agriculture na tumewacha, tumepatia kina Bill Gates ndio wana run. Nimewaambia hapa 20 years ago, 30 years ago, Kenya ilikuwa the leading exporter of pyrethrum. Cotton industry ilikuwa sawa. Mimi nimesoma na miwa. My father was a farmer. As much as I tell people don't take sugar, but mimi nilisomea na miwa. Umeshindwa kulipa fees, mzazi anaenda Mosako, Mumia South Cross Sako. Anapeleka contract ya miwa, anasema niko na hii shamba eka 2 na hii miwa yangu itakatwa in 6 months. Tafadhali mnipatie shilingi 15,000 nipeleke mtoto wangu shule, alafu mkikuja kukata miwa, sasa kulipa mkate hiyo 15,000. So Mosako inakupatia pesa. Mtoto anaenda shule. Walio wengi wamesoma na miwa. Saizi hakuna. Kampuni ilianguka. Ukiangalia the microeconomy of Luyaland imeisha. Hiyo tuko na politicians. Na ule mtu anaweza kufanya, tunaanza kumuita ni mwendazimu. Salasia. Salasia is trying. Anajaribu. Hizo madrama zake kando, lakini anajaribu. Because pia ni mtu amegrow na miwa. Saizi nzo ya shuga hii ya Bungoma ndio ina collapse. Kulikuwa na tobacco industry huko sehemu za Busia huko, Malaba. Ilikufa. Sasa kama agriculture inakufa, tutabaki na nini? Tutaenda wapi? Coffee farming. Sasa ukienda Kiambu wanatoa coffee waneka apartments. So unajiuliza hii apartment concrete jungle itatufikisha wapi sisi? What is our future as a country? Zile vitu zenye nafaa tuongelee, zenye zinatuhusu as a country, atuongelei. Tuongea kuexport sijui nini, tumetengeneza sijui 5,000 jobs kwa ICT wapi. Get zile basics. Unajua tukikosa zile basics, hata hizo za juu hatuwezi. Nani yako na mic aongee? Ogola. Natafuta lawyer Piki Ponki Simoni. Willis, please nitumie your request. Nikupatie mic uongee hizo stories za legislation. Willis alikuwa anasema hivi, that in the future tuko na legislation yenye president is not part of parliament. Yeye hayuko kwa any political party. Iko kama Singapore. President ni mtu independent. Hayuko kwa political party yoyote. Hiyo itatusaidia. And then the parliamentary elections iko kando. Tuseme parliamentary elections zinakuwa kando. After 3 years, bunge anaenda 2 terms, 3 years akimaliza anaenda. Sasa hizi tuko na bunge, watu ni madinosaur huko. Mtu amekaa bunge 20 years. Ni nini ataleta ya maana ama mpya yenye itabadilisha Kenya? Hakuna. Mtu amekaa bunge 20 years, 25. Wabunge waende 2-3 years, ukifanya kazi poa urudi 3 years uende nyumbani. Upate mwingine pia opportunity ya kurepresent your constituency kwa bunge. Si wewe peke yako unaweza represent. And then president atoke kwa party, asikwe part of this party politics. Hizi party politics ndio zinafanya saa hizi Rigiji na president hawasikizani because of party politics. So tutoe president asikwe any party. Na akitaka kuongelesha wabunge, hawaiti State House, anaenda kwa bunge. Anasema kitu anataka kusema, alafu wabunge wana debate, wanakubaliana kama amesema kitu poa, wanakubali. Kama amesema kitu mbaya, wanakataa. That's how we build our country. Lakini saa hii party politics imeharibu country yetu. Ndio maana tuko na hizi coalition of parties. Unapata party iko na members watatu, iko kwa ruling party. Kwa ruling kuna party nyingine iko huko North Eastern inaitwa UDM. Hata mimi sijui. Bado unasikia iko kwa ruling coalition. Unajua hii party ni kitu gani hii? Imefanya nini? So kitu itaendelea, utapata kila sasa ward itakuwa na party. Hii ward iko na party yake, ile ward iko na party, na zote zinaingia ruling coalition. Hizo ndo zinaharibu demokrasia ya Kenya. Kama nimekupatia mic, ongea, we continue. I'm waiting for Willis atuongeleshe. Kama ametuleta, nilikuwa namuona Jimmy Wanjigi pia anataka kuongea, atuombe mambo ya public debt. Atuambie tuko wapi as a country. Because yeye ni kama anajua hizi stories zote. Atuambie sisi tuko na deni this much, lakini yenye tunalipa ni hii. So hii balance hii ni watu wanakula tu, watu wanaweka kwa mfuko. Please, kama uko na mic, you can go on.
Kuna kitu umegusia Amerix about being in business. I've been in business since 2020. A fashion house. Recently, KRA came and they summoned me to their office, telling me that I've not registered for e-teams, that I've not complied in paying taxes, and they told me to go with statements, personal bank statement, the till statement, and the records, Now I'm asking myself, the government has not created a favorable environment to do business in this country. What they're interested in is to get more money from these Kenyans who work their back and asses out to make that extra coin. Any place that they can get money, ndo natilia mkazo sana. So when you get someone like that, and if it's the first time, you start looking for a tax expert, which means you have to pay someone to do that. Putting in mind that you've not even paid the rent for that month, or maybe there are 2 months that you've not paid. So I said, let me just go represent myself. I go explain myself. They slapped me with a fine of 200,000, So when they gave me that fine, I now started giving them evidence that sijalipa rent, sijalipa wafanyikazi. Na ukifika pale unakuuliza maswali, unafanyikazi wangapi, unawalipa pesa ngapi, rent unalipa pesa ngapi? So they calculate the amount of money that they think or the purport that you're making, And the environment is not favorable for business. So when I tabled evidence that I've not been paid rent for 2 months, they gave me a warning. And they gave me tax clearance, So how many Kenyans know their rights? And how many Kenyans have been put into debt paying those fines that are very unscrupulous, So ni serikali ambayo inajali yenyewe, And what made the government speak in a good tone after being called criminals is when they saw that it's not conducive for them to do their own businesses. When they saw that now wananchi are going for them. When it was us, it was okay, we were criminals. When Kenyans started going for them, now sasa hapo ikabadilika, wakaona kwamba this is serious, let's now come down and talk to these people. Another institution that has failed us as a country is the church, through faith diplomacy. Nikifikiria kitambo venye priests and pastors were being respected in the country, na sasa hivi iko tofauti sana. Church ilikuwa inaongea, kina Timothy Njoya wanaongea, wamepigwa marungu kwa sababu ya kufaitia ile demokrasi ambayo sasa hizi tuko nao tunaenjoy. Lakini kanisa sasa inanunuliwa na bahasha, alafu wanakisha kwamba wanaomba. I don't know if these are facts or just rumors. Kwamba kuna mapasta, because very prominent journalists have written, the 100 pastors that pray every day for this country, every day, praying for our country to be better. Our country is not run by prayers. Even though prayer changes things, our country should be run through policies that are working, you know. If you look at the manifestos of these politicians, they are very nice manifestos, but they're not being followed. They're not being implemented. Alafu unatuambia kwamba utatuombea nchi ikuwe vizuri. How? The fucked up shit, you know. Like, these policies that are there, they need to be put into action, you know. They need to work on these policies. They need to make sure that they follow these manifestos. If they are followed to the latter, we're going to be in a good place. When you come to the sports industry, very incompetent minister. Showbiz kibao left, right, and center. Fungua hii, fungua hii, fungua hii. Yet, ile joint hosting ambayo tumepewa ya kuhost AFCON, tunaweza ikosa kwa sababu hatuna viwanja. Inakuwaje tunakuwa host, tunaweza kupiga boli Zimbabwe, serious. Such a country inakuwa na kiwanja, sisi kama Kenya hatuna kiwanja. You know, how? Yet kuna pesa inatoka FIFA, kuna pesa inatoka kwa taxes za Wakenya, na kuna kitu kinafanyika. You know? And inakuwa tu blame them. I'm challenging sports journalists in this country today, tonight. Speak up, you know, speak up. Speak up and change the industry. Kwa sababu unasikiza mse wa bola anasema footballers have been turned into beggars. And it is so painful kwamba wanariadha wanaenda kule nje, they use their own effort, you know, wanatrain kivyao, then wakishinda ndo wanapokelewa na waziri hapa Kenya. Muziki hapa na pale ni na nini, alafu inaishia pale. Yet hakuna facilities. If majuzi walikuwa wanalia kwamba wafunguliwe Nyayo, they do their practice. Ilikuwa imefungwa under renovation. Yet kukiwa na crusade inafunguliwa rata inafanywa. Why? Why? These are questions that we need to be asking every day. Akija kiongozi katika stesheni, pigeni simu stesheni, ulizeni ya maswali. Akija kwa ground, ulizeni maswali. Why is this place not working? If you press and press and press, something, because right now, something is happening. Because if our president can come to a space and listen to us, that should count for something. And let's continue pushing until that time that things will work in this country. Otherwise, if we keep quiet, if we keep mum, watazidi kutukalia, watutapikie, maka unajua kwamba watatununua tena ikifika mwaka 2027. So tufinye kabisa mpaka wakati ambapo tunaona kwamba industry na sekta zote zinafanya kazi. And don't say that your voice is small. You don't have to be a big wig on Twitter. You don't have to be someone who's known. Pale katika village yako, yule mbunge wako, yule MCA, yule governor, if they're not doing something right, speak up. Right now, we're heading in the right direction, and tukinyamazishwa hatatoboa. What happened during the last demos is what has been happening throughout independence. Kwa sababu unapata kwamba tumeamua kwamba tunampeleka Amerix aende atuongoze kama constituency ya Nyaribari Chache. Lakini kwa sababu kuna mtu pale anaitwa Mbaruk, ana pesa na labda ana wahuni fulani, the voices of those people that want change zinakandamizwa, alafu wale wanafanya wale wapiga kura wakae nyumbani wasipige piga kura, alafu it was evident juzi wakati jenzi wametoka, gunzi wamekuja. Nani aliwaleta? We saw today wametoka concert pale Uhuru Park, wametembea Moi Avenue, wanaimba, wanaenda zao nyumbani. Hawana hooliganism yoyote, you know. So it is so painful to be a Kenyan at this time. It is so painful to talk about it, but we are heading the right direction. Thank you so much, Amerix, for this space. Naona sitaongea tena baada hapa. Nipo kwenye mic ili wakati wengine pia waongee, tusikie hizi ideas zikuje. Then tujue how can we restructure, how can we regroup and tushinikize hii serikali itusikie, kwa sababu we are the people with the power. Without us, they are nothing. So when I say watoto wameshindwa kusafiri, mikutano imekuwa postponed, it means the power is with us, you know, and tukifinya, watakubali na wataanguka nayo. Thank you so much.
All right. Asante sana. I'm trying to add people here so that they can speak. Yes, Fatso, you can be a co-host. I've added Ombachi. I have added Kenya's #1 hater. Kaido, accept and then come and talk to us. I see we have... Right, thank you very much. Yes, Billy, I've given you a mic, you can talk. Right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. If you have a mic, you can go on. If you requested to speak, you know, the requests are many, I think 100 and something. So if you request to speak and confirm if I've approved and start talking, so we don't waste time. Gaido?
Amerix, they look like the listeners from my side.
They look like the what?
The listeners, the still listeners. Why don't you listeners? Hawajakuwa speaker kama Gaido. Hata Umbachi.
Unaweza ninyang'anya speaker so that at least wakuwe na space ya kupata the mic. So you can drop me from the speakers list.
All right, let me do that. I've done that. I've removed you from the speaker. Remove. Billy, are you still there as the speaker?
Yeah, I'm still seeing myself as a speaker.
Okay. Just a bit as I invite, I remove these ones. Are you still a speaker? All right, Francis Gaido, I've sent right, Ochieno, Willis. I think it's now sorted.
Testing 1, 2. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go on.
Amerix, nice. Thanks for inviting me. Sorry, I'm late. And I would want to carry on with your point about the collapsing industry. You were talking about the sugar belt. You were talking about all the companies and all the outgrower farms which were supporting small holder, farmers and whatnot. And being from Thika, I have the same kind of experience. So Thika was an industrial town. it used to be called the Birmingham of Kenya. So, especially in the textile industry, there was KTM, there was what, and so because of the structural adjustment programs, they came with some malicious or notorious or mischievous attachments or riders that you must liberalize, you must open your market for cheap imports, and that's how the Mutumba sector grew. And so we are here glorifying the Gikomba industry and whatnot. We are glorifying them because of importing second-hand clothes. But essentially, the only reason why new clothes or brand new clothes are expensive in Kenya is because of taxes, is because of the environment which has made it unconducive to produce. So it goes the entire chain. They dropped all the subsidies, all the incentives they used to give to farmers who used to grow cotton or who used to rear sheep for wool, and so they made domestic production expensive, and then we opened ourselves for cheap imports. A lot of companies now shut down because they could no longer sustain, no longer, not just on the So I've seen Thika move from being, that semi-urban, plush town into being just another, shithole town. Because of that, because of the parliament. Our problem begins and ends with parliaments when they talk about these structural adjustment programs. You look at when the World Bank and IMF started implementing that, they then created this committee. It was called a privatization committee. And then there was the Ndegwa family. You guys think so highly about the Ndegwa family because they own NIC and NCPA. But if you look, their father, who was once a central bank governor called Phil Ndegwa, was the chairman of that privatization commission or committee that was formed in conjunction with the World Bank and the IMF, so that we can be part of these structural adjustment programs, conditionalities for us to access loans so as to bridge the deficit that has been created by bad governance. So Philip Ndegwa becomes the chairman of the privatization commission. What does he first do? Anajichotea pesa zake. He first grabs a few companies. There was Nairobi Airport Services called NAS. There were many other companies which were grabbed during that period. But then you'll realize that the World Bank is hiding behind some of these government officials, and then they make it as if that, we are selling these parastatals to clear our debt. But no, it is them who are grabbing. So during that period is when we saw the privatization of companies like Kenya Power. If you look at Kenya Power, since it was privatized, has our power bills, have they been cheaper or more? So the privatization was just a hoodwink. It was just a scam crafted for a few elites like Mama Ngina to grab our state-owned corporations. Look at Safaricom. During the same period, we had the Kenya Post and Telecommunications Corporation. Then, because of some mambo jumbo and magic over here, we were told it must be privatized. And so Safaricom was a department under the Kenya Post and Telecommunications Corporation. You understand? And that's where we have these clowns like Gideon Moi owning Mobileye, 5% of Safaricom, given for free, under the guise that Vodafone is the one which is buying it. But Vodafone was giving 5% to Gideon Moi as a bribe because of acquiring Safaricom, which was a department of Kenya Post and Telecommunications Corporation. Look at something like Kenya Airways. We were told and we were fashioned. I remember I was reading the newspapers, I was very young, and they told us that privatization is a quick fix panacea, that because we are going to privatize, things are going to be better. Now, because the old generation of useless bastards, the boomers, if you are a boomer over here and you are there, you are a useless bastard, they bought into the idea of privatization. They bought into the idea of, let's get the golden handshake, and being stupid as they are, and even today they are still very stupid, they signed themselves up for a suicide. And so Kenya Airways, which was a fully state-owned corporation, has changed hands. It was sold first to KLM, and then there was this partnership between KLM, and then what they did is now, when they got to now the worst part, which was during the Uhuru era, they started selling our primest landing spots. For instance, Kenya Airways used to land in London at 6:10 a.m. There was a flight leaving Nairobi to London at 6:10. They sold that. They sold that to some, I don't know whether it's Bahrain or one of those companies or one of those countries. They sold that slot to bridge the deficit about debt that we don't know how it was incurred. We don't know how Kenya Airways got broke. We don't know how Kenya Airways got into debt, but somehow we have, because that is, your landing slot is almost like a sovereign parcel of land. You sell it, you concede it to another country to bridge problems that you yourselves have created. And so when we are talking about auditing debt, Jimmy Wanjigi is talking about odious debt. If we are talking about it, we are not just limiting ourselves to the debt. We are looking at the atrocities committed at the turn of the 80s to the 90s, where now that character, that clown called Philip Ndegwa, who was the central bank governor, who you guys are shamelessly praising today because they are rich, because you guys, your self-esteem has been suppressed. You are praising that clown, saying that they are rich, but they themselves stole, their wealth is accrued. I used to read articles that Philip Ndegwa is rich. He was the first Kenyan to bank 1 billion. How are you banking 1 fucking billion? You have no manufacturing company. You're not a farmer of repute. You're not an innovator or inventor, and then you bank 1 billion. Where did you get that fucking money? These are questions when, anytime we confront the ruling elite, we tell them, hey, can you tell us how you acquired this money? Because there was a time they used to flaunt their money. They used to flaunt these stories. Oh, I used to read those silly, nonsensical stories by somebody like Jenga Karume. Jenga Karume says, I used to sell charcoal. Who the fuck would believe that charcoal would make you a billionaire? Those are not, unless you're exporting that charcoal to Mars or to Jupiter as an alternative energy source. But we've been fed with lies. We've been fed with cock and bull stories pushed by the mainstream media, shameless journalists, shameless editors. No, like you just run with any rubbish. You don't want to question how the person acquired this wealth. They were in government. They used to do X, Y, and Z, and somehow they landed into a lot of money. And because there were no checks and balances, suddenly they are billionaires and they are being praised. They are being worshipped by the church. We have the corrupt clergy. I see people are calling them kilaji. But this is the historical injustices that we have, especially from the economic front. It has to be all the companies that were grabbed by people hiding behind the narrative of privatization. The people who hid behind the narrative of a golden handshake. People who are told, oh, you take a golden handshake, you'll go home. And by the time those guys were taking a golden handshake and leaving state-owned corporations, which were permanent and pensionable, they went to the villages and went to rot there to die. So this is, now we get to the sugar belt. Amerix was talking about it. He has grown up from there. His family has, I'm from the coffee sector. The coffee sector has supported me. Somehow it collapsed. And you are talking right now, you go to Kiambu Road right now, all the coffee is being chopped down, it's being turned to real estate. Why? Because of structural deficiencies created by these fucking members of parliament, the guys we are entertaining, the guys you guys think are gods or something. They go and pass laws which are passed or which are crafted or which are conjured somewhere, and then they come and now start cooking narratives and telling you what. I was telling you about sugar. There was this clown called Ivan Skidero. Ivan Skidero, by the time he became the Mumia's sugar CEO, he is from the sugar belt, but the interests of the farmers were the last thing on his mind. He wanted by the time he got there, he went to maneuver his way into getting import licenses so that they induce closures of the main sugar production, Sony, Mumias, and whatever, so that when they are shut down, they've been shut down under the guise of, oh, we have maintenance and whatnot. I think you used to see those whatever. Then they would import. Now, those sugar import licenses used to be approved by parliament, by idiots like who? Like Bonnie Kalawale, like this other idiot, what's his name? This Waluke. Those guys who pretend that they are members or they hail from the Western region were part and parcel of the destruction of the sugar industry. And I don't understand how you guys still worship them. How do you allow an idiot like Bonnie Kalawale to address you in a funeral or in a whatever? How? Because he has been part of the destruction of the sugar sector. The sugar sector in the coffee sector in Mount Kenya has been destroyed by none other than fucking MP from Mount Kenya region. So our problem begins and ends in parliament, but parliament has been an extension of the executive. And so what you needed to do, you just needed to go to treasury. You meet the bureaucratic pieces of shit in the treasury. You tell them, oh, this is how much you're getting. Can you sneak these amendments into the finance bill? And so finance bills every year, and what you used to call the budgets, became an overhaul of our entire economic structure. So they used to go and, coincidentally, believe it or not, I used to be close with the PS of Treasury many years ago called Joseph Kenyua. And one day I met him at his house and I told him, can we do a proposal for football? So we wanted, because my background is football, and we wanted to launch our sporting renaissance on the model of Britain, so that the government kind of like commands the building of infrastructure. And I went and gave him the proposal, and then he organized a meeting for me at Treasury, and I met the budget committee. And I remember going, and I was very young, it was around 2008. And I remember going there, I was just finding guys, it was like Windies and it was just foreigners who were there, who went to give their budget committee. But I went, I spoke to them, and instead of doing my project the way I had presented it, because it would have created a lot of jobs for the young people and wouldn't be having the problem today, what did they do? They passed a law using my proposal where every constituency got 1 million shillings for football. I'm seeing some MPs who are in office at the time, they will tell you they got 1 million shillings for every constituency for football. Just know that was my proposal that was implemented inversely, because we are dealing with a bunch of stupid idiots in parliament, bureaucratic pieces of shit. And when we are saying that we want to get rid of and we want to overhaul our economic structure, we have to start with Treasury, we have to start with Central Bank, we have to start with the Ministry of Energy and other places where World Bank and IMF have seconded their stooges, their surrogates, to implement policies that are going to fuck us up. That's where we are going to start. So I'm bitter because I can see our Kenyans. I saw Bonnie Kalawale with some young people, and he's the one who has been there with Akina Kidero and Akina Waluke. They were destroying the sugar subsector. And so we are dependent on importation. Like now there was this Galana Kulalu, which has consumed a lot of money. They have only harvested, I don't know, only 100 bags since 2009. Where has that money been going to? These are glaring corruption undertakings by the people who you then now come to worship in church. They come and donate money. They come with words of cash. And you guys are just there worshiping them. You guys are there worshiping them because they're driving big cars. You have to understand that our oppression is intertwined with the current political establishment. So we need to overhaul everything. I saw some of you useless bastards. You have shame and you are saying Matiang'i. Matiang'i is the scandals. He's been there in the Roraka land scandal. He CBC, which has messed us up, and you are there without any honor or shame, saying, yeah, Matiang'i, because you've been paid a few shillings. Come on, man. The same way we are dealing with Osama because of betrayal is the same way we are going to be dealing with you when you're making some psychotic and deluded proposals like Matiang'i for president. We are not moving behind, we are moving forward. This whole thing is one big charade. Well, our companies which had our people. And so I would see people, you know, because you are used to your parents having money. You are used to your parents having money to pay your school fees, your hospital, and whatever. And then suddenly they've lost their job. Don't understand why they lost their jobs. But they used to work in this, they used to work in Mumias, they used to get a job. They used to work, and you used to also get healthcare attached to your parents. And somehow I would see people sinking into depression. And then what was the other solution that the boomers at the time came up with? Oh, let's immigrate. So all of them, let's go to America, let's go to Britain, let's go to where? But how long shall we run away from self-manufactured problems? Because you elect thugs, you elect idiots. These idiots then go and steal your money. You understand it's a chain, and you're part of it. You're an active participant. So the thing here is, we in our pursuit for progress, in our pursuit to overhaul this entire system, we are looking at Ruto. Ruto must fall. That is guaranteed, whether we like it or not. He is going to fall because we have decided as a people that he is not. He's not serving our interests. Anytime we have given an opportunity for him to speak in the media, to rise to the occasion, to tower above his parochial interests, he has gone on and to let us down. He's saying the dumbest shit. He's asked, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? He doesn't do anything. He says the worst thing. He has no sense of occasion. So we have agreed that he must go, whether it's 2027 or before, I don't know. It's the people to decide. But in the meantime, just look at the historical patterns from when World Bank started implementing the structural adjustment programs in the 1990s, the people who grabbed our companies. So when we are talking about audit, and I saw some audit committee made, it's just a mockery. These guys are insulting our collective intelligence. That those guys, they put the most irrelevant of guys, they put the most useless of guys, because any committee that is talking about an audit without Okia Omtata and Jimmy Wanjigi is just a spectacular waste of time. So because we have detected the insincerity of these useless bastards, they have no intention of even meeting any of our requirements because they have not done anything so far. They're talking about reshuffling, and we are saying all these CSs, PSs, heads of department, all of them need to go because they are not ready to undertake such a purge. Then you structure your mind into a reality, a future, whether it will be 2027 and beyond, that we are overhauling the entire establishment. And when we are auditing, we are not just auditing the loans that Uhuru stole, because Uhuru must have stolen like 4 trillion shillings alone. We are not just auditing that. We are auditing where the problem started, and the problem started at the turn of the 80s to the 90s, where they grabbed our parastatals, which had employed our parents. Our industries, flagship industries, collapsed because of what? Tourism used to earn us foreign exchange. Coffee used to earn us foreign exchange. Pyrethrum, Sisal, everything, textile industry, nothing, everything was collapsed so that we can favor a bunch of useless bastards called importers. And those importers, sorry, Amerix, give me 1 minute. Those importers are the ones who are the authors. They are the orchestrators of our misfortune as Kenyans. And we must, because they have the power to influence policy, they have the power to influence laws. Your MPs go to the toilets, they are bribed with 10,000 shillings. Can you imagine a member of parliament being bribed with 10,000 shillings? He's on a payroll of 1 million. He has fuel allowance, he has everything, and he's being paid 10,000 shillings in the toilets of parliament to change the laws that is going to affect you. Come on, I'm going crazy over here. Sorry, Amerix. I apologize if I went overboard. I'm sorry.
It's a citizen assembly, so you are allowed to say whatever you want to say. Our common goal is one, our spirit is one, that we must overhaul the establishment. We must drain the swamp, because the swamp has been infested by crocodiles, pests, snakes. If there are people we need to pray for, they're the Kenyan journalists. The other day, I was reading an article that journalists at Standard have not been paid for 8 months. It is really, really heartbreaking. Can you imagine a journalist is supposed to wear very good clothes? He or she must wear a very friendly face so that they can come on your screen and give you a story of a politician stealing money. And this journalist has nothing in the house, has not paid rent, doesn't know how they will go back. They have a car, yes, but they will park that car at their company parking lot. Then they will pick a matatu, go to the house. The other day, a journalist committed suicide. And we kept on asking ourselves, how can a journalist commit suicide? Look like they are happy. They go everywhere. They fly abroad. But the people who are facing the brunt of this economic decline, they are the journalists. And if a journalist is not empowered economically, they will not tell the true story. We might bash them. We might say all that we have about journalists and what they write. But just take time and sit with one. We'll cry. 8 months without a salary. And you expect that journalist to come in the morning, sit in a radio station, and tell the stories of the country. That is not possible. Our economy is declining. And as a people, if we don't stand up for our economy, we are done. Because it appears our president looks like a captive of other forces. That is not normal. The other day, UK did its election. They removed the World Economic Forum puppet and put there another puppet. They have jumped from a frying pan to the fire. Because this current puppet, the current prime minister, is the one who has been going around the world telling people about green energy and things like those, but goes to those meetings in a private jet. Ombaji, welcome.
Asante sana. First of all, thanks Gaido. Gaido, you know what we see you bash Gaido hapa hivi Twitter, but he was amongst the first guys na yesi wa kuanza. Hiyo movement tayari ilikuwa imeanzanga TikTok a while back, but Gaido ndo amongst the first people he stuff ilianza kufesa upon them. But mimi sina mingi ya kusema. Mimi I usually judge events based on history and the probability of them repeating themselves again. Na kulingana na the recent events zimekuwa zikihappen ETL ya hii story ya Osama ya betrayal kulipwa. So sijui mbona we are entertaining people who've had a history of questionable characters, you know. Ndaongea straight to the point. Kama Nyakundi naona kwa hapo co-host. Nyakundi wewe ni extortionist. Nakumbuka there was someone here baby kwanza ameongelea story ya footballers. Nikasema ikaniuma, nikakumbuka hata mimi there was a time mimi na William Baka we were fighting for the right of players hapo union ililipa Nyakundi akaanza kututrash. Nyakundi wewe ni extortionist. Wewe to welcome your efforts for a movement. People like you should be welcomed. Yes, but you should not be given any self-importance. Wewe fanya kazi yako sababu umeamua kufanya kazi yako because you're fighting because of what you believe. See it in the agenda, it's just facts. Maybe you mean well, but at this point you can't take chances. We already know from history what has happened in Osama. Hii kitu deflate movement. As much as I try to admit, it kuwa momentum kidogo, but the good thing about it is it told us there are Trojan horses, ama there will be more Trojan horses in future, wenye saizi bado si Trojan horses. Kuna watu bado wakilipo watadu the same thing. So why not? Watu wamekuwa wakilipo kufanya vitu kama hizi before. Si tulikuwa nafuatia retro players, wewe ukalipwa. Ukaanza hiyo time hata hatuko Twitter. Tunaingia Twitter hivi unaingia mtu anafungulia Twitter na kuambia Nyakundi anasema hii nini. Hiyo tunajua tu ni union ilikulipa. Na after stories zilisha down, God will change union. Watu the same walikulipa na walituambia. So when sell out. Hata hii cost, umepatiwa cost ya nini hapa hivi. This is what is wrong with our society. Tunajifanya tunafaitia what is right, but the same people are fighting for what is purported to be right are not right. Nyakundi, wewe na Alai, kaeni kando. Nyinyi mko group moja. Kama mnapigana for what is right because it's right, it's good, we welcome you. But we won't waste our time and resources watching you guys while you're on our safe side. Ili tujue nyinyi ni wabaya, hata kama mnafanyia kitu mzuri. Tukipatana huko mbele, tukisha achieve goals zetu, tutakaa chini to celebrate pamoja. Lakini as for now, the movement tuache kupatia people who've had a history of being turncoats and audience. Tafadhali, mimi hata sina advice mingi. Mimi sasa ni kuambiana tu ukweli hapa hivi. Moving forward, kama mtu amekuwa na issue integrity, na integrity ndio one of the things, corruption, that tuko kwa street watu wanakufa tunaandamana. Wewe kazi yako ni kupatiwa pesa na politicians, unakanyagia stories zenye zingetusaidia mpaka hatungefika penye tuko hapa hivi. Alafu kwa hapo unataka kujifanya tunafaitia watu. Sikuchuki by the way, mimi hata grudge, mimi sijakangi grudge. Mimi ni mtu mimi ucheka tu. Na inaisha. Cause najua nitakupata hapa mbele na nimekupata leo. So, stop the pretense. Hata jitoe tu co-host, usikize kama watu wengine. Enda maandamano kule tiagas kama raia ya kawaida. Wacha kujifanya leader. You are not a leader. You are a sellout.
Mr. Mbachi.
Usimsema ni ukweli tunataka kuambiana.
Into this is a public forum, but you're
it's a public forum. Sijamaliza kuongea basi.
If you want to make personal attacks, we can.
It's not personal attack. It's history. It's facts. Unaweza dig kwa tweet zake usipate. Mimi sijui.
But if you want to talk about, I think everyone here who has been on this platform over the years, they know that my history on this platform and the other platforms.
Kwani nani anaongea huni Amerix? Yeye Amerix je kuwa co-host hata na mwacha kutumia DMs kuwapatia watu mic.
Everyone knows my history on this platform.
No, I'm listening. Mimi siongei. I'm just listening. It is a citizen assembly. I don't know how you want to sort it.
Sauti yako inakuanga hivi. Kwa space. Nimekuona tu kwa space nikasema hapana. Hawa ndio wanatumislead. Hawa ndio the new Osamas.
Yes.
It will happen before it will happen again. I mean,
all right. I'm listening. Go on, Nombachi. You need to finalize.
Oh yeah, nilikuwa nawaambia we should watch the thing, and the easiest way ni vile tulisema hiki kitu ni leaderless. Tuache kujipatia reporters that we are hosting a space with Amerix nini. Lakini the most valuable point nimesema, let us have people on our side. Let us judge them the way we want to judge the politicians that we are saying we want to kick them out. The way we are judging Sudi, the way we are judging Murkomen, the way we are judging anyone, other the way people have already judged Sifuna today based on a history that's 30 minutes old. Kama ni hivyo, democracy cuts both ways. Tukue honest with each other. Me, I'm a truthful, honest man. Tukue honest with each other. Me, I'm not a good person or the best person or whatever. But the thing is, I know I'm honest. Chenye itakuja kudomo, nitasema ili kiprocess kama ilikuwa mbaya na kuambia pole baadaye. Na tutaelewana, maisha itaendelea. So those are facts. Mimi chenye nasema, Nyakundi, wewe ni sellout, unatuenjoy. Wewe ukilipwa saa hizi, wewe utatokeuka. Mwache kudanganya. Ni kama Alai ujue kuna space. Sijui kama kuna mtu pale kwa hiyo space. Nilianza kuongea hivi, nikaanza sasa kuchachisha watu, wakaanza kuchachisha. Kumbe jamaa niliongea space, nimechangamka, nimeongelesha mosquito 30 minutes. Ndio nashangaa. Na hii hata nikiangalia tiela sioni nini inaendelea hapa hivi. Kumbe jamaa alishaninyongea. Alafu kesho yake ndo unakuja kuona jamaa na tweet vitu zingine hot and cold. Ndo nikaangalia hivi nikasema huyu jamaa ni sellout. Nikaanza kujiuliza nini mbaya. Mpaka watu hata I don't agree with them. Mtu kama Asamo. Ndo nikauliza Asamo bana, huyu jamaa wenu kwani anakuangaje hivi? Because mimi alive mimi sikuwa najua history yake. Nyakundi mimi nilijua kwa sababu yeye alilipwa hata anishi jina yetu. Kuna hata ukiingia kwa tweet zake utapata kama hajadelete. So mimi sina mengi ya kusema, ni kupoint out makosa. Mimi niko mtu mwingine kwa hii movement. Natokea kwa street, I do my part, lakini nikiona makosa yote mahali, whether uko juu ama uko chini, enye niko in a position ya point out, I will point it out. Ndio isikuye kutubite mbele, alafu nianze kusema by the way nilikuwa najua hii story ya tio watu wanakuja wanaanza kusema huyu tulikuwa tunajua ni sellout. Mbona huku tuambia? Wewe basi pia wewe even you are a sellout. So mimi sina mengi ya kusema, ni hayo tu, na I think ni hiyo tu nimesema. Ukiniwekea hapa hivi utapata zingine.
Asante sana Deno. Nashukuru sana. Thank you for joining. I still in China.
Niko China mazee, na hapa ni 3 sasa hivi 3:30 na bado silali. Hii space hii ni hadi kesho.
Asante sana. Now let me go to Willis.
In fact hata niongeze ile niko hapa, history my youth imeniudi. Ukiona the way the youth are supported here. Like Gava, Gava everything. I will tell you for free, for a fact, as in each job influencer nafanya, I've been more than blessed enough. Nimemanage kutoka hiyo kakuni ya local kufanya, of which bado nafanya, but I've been able to work with lots of embassies na governments, Turkey, Italy, in Thailand. Kitu kama kupush tu chakula, kitu kama pad thai. Pad thai, the reason why is the most exported food in the world. The reason why Thai restaurants are the most exported restaurants in the world, I think about 30,000 in the world, it's because the government ili push it. Government ilikuwa inapatia hadi incentives. Hapa China unakuja hapa hivi, wameunda tu mpaka cities tu ziko empty. Kama unataka kushoot movie, wewe unaenda unachukua license au lipi, unaenda unachapa wera yako, unarudi. As in Gava inadu vitu mingi sana. Hata kuna vitu zingine za upuzi kwanza nimeona mpaka inaniuliza swali mpaka sasa nashangaa hata mbona nimeenda public, nimekaa fala sana. Nimeuliza jamaa hapo hivi kwa town sasa tuko hapa Sichuan Chengdu. Akaniambia public toilet tuko huko hivyo. Sasa mimi niko na card. Nikamuuliza sina ya kulipa hapo inasupport kwa duka zingine. Mimi nashangaa watu wanacheka nini? Kumbe hata ni bure. Nashangaa kwani sisi tunabeba ufala aje? Anyway, hata ni mali.
All right, asante sana. Thank you very much Deno, nimeshukuru sana. Let me invite Willis. Willis.
Thank you very much, Amerix.
Karibu sana.
Willis Otieno here.
Yes.
Piki Ponki.
Karibu.
The first thing I want to point out is that it's good that you start this, we continue this conversation, because what you are doing is you are now giving citizens a platform where they are going to be discussing their issues beyond the political class. And the challenge we have in this country is that our politicians have always thought that they are actually lords over us. They are not. They are actually our workers. When you talk about the money that they spend, the lagis I see them flashing around, that is money that's collected from the border guys, collected from you when you go and buy sweets, you go and buy anything you buy. It is your money that is collected to a common pool, and then they don't use it to your benefit. And it is important that we note that when we reached Parliament last week, the Kenyan people took sovereignty into their hands. What the political establishment is trying to do is to take it away, to take it back from you. And they are going to do everything possible to try to get that power back from you. It is our responsibility not to hand it over back to them until the day we'll go to a ballot and we elect a group that we believe will recognize that the people are superior even to the Constitution. Right now, the president thinks that he is the most superior being in this country. He is not. He is merely a servant of the people of Kenya. William Ruto will come and go. In fact, the question we should be having at this point in terms of William Ruto, is he going before 2027 or is going in 2027? Going, he will go. That we've passed. What we must engender in our governance is that going forward, you must understand what we call the People's Charter. And that People's Charter, I normally summarize it to be one thing. It is about the welfare of the people and giving human beings, the people of Kenya, dignity in whatever you are doing. So anything that anybody does that does not give dignity to the individual, you must take it away. I've had the conversation about some within the space who will betray the movement. Whenever I talk to the politicians who are in the 1980s and the 90s struggle, they will tell you that they were betrayed by the most unlikely voters, people whom they didn't even expect to betray them. Allow me just to give an example, for example, of Raila Odinga, who once mentioned one of the people who, when he sent an emissary to pass a message that he was in detention, that emissary, when he reached to a close relative, the close relative told the emissary, never come back to me with a message from Raila Odinga. And that is his close relative. He disowned him because he feared for himself. There are others who also decided to sell their fellow detainees just because you are offered 10,000 Kenya shillings, 100,000 Kenya shillings. So we will expect also in this particular quest, there are so many people in this space who will sell the movement for personal gain. But I assure you, what we are going through, there is nobody in Kenya who has ever gone through this process. In the sense that it is now the people of Kenya in their collective without a leader who are determining their future. And that future is premised on going forward. Our governance will be about us, not about the people we put in office. And anybody assuming that office, anybody who's going to be paid to betray this cause, I'm not cursing you, but I am promising you, you shall fail. And we will be here to witness the collapse of that enterprise. The third thing I want to point out, I've heard what Noah said about Cyprian. I will not want that we spend too much time discussing personalities, but as at least Noah said, he just want to put it out there so that we also do our own self-introspection. You may have heard at some point in the past, but nothing stops you from picking up the piece and saying, for the common good, for the better of the entire movement and the people of Kenya. Because when Kenya is great, it's great for all of us. You are now going to leave that past and focus on this movement that is going to achieve a unity and a new country that makes sense to all Kenyans. Kenya must make sense to all of us. We've been living in a country where Kenya only makes sense to those who are holding public office. In fact, if you ask me, if you look at the salaries that public servants earn vis-a-vis what private sector offers, you ask yourself why somebody, for example, will leave his legal practice to go and earn a salary of 300,000 Kenya shillings. But then 6 months into office, this man is walking around with 10 million Kenya shillings watches. This man is negotiating in advance to buy land worth of 100 million Kenya shillings and saying, I will pay you. Even if he was to take a loan, if he was to appear in any bank with his payslip, no bank will give him that loan. It simply means that he knows leaving private practice to go in government service is now an opportunity for him to accumulate for himself. And we must reject that. And that is what we are rejecting on the streets. Let's go to tactic. You witnessed today when the concert was being held and the young people turned up in their numbers for that concert. There was no act of breach because you got the politicians, the near-doers flat-footed. They are used to the usual rigmarole that you go to the street and they send policemen, they throw tear gas at you, they baton beat you up, throw water cannons at you. But we must now have ingenious ways of organizing that we will create a national mood that even the police at some point will be the ones on the streets demonstrating, not the people of Kenya. Because what we are saying and what they're being asked to do to us when we are out in those spaces, even then they love self-introspection. And you will witness it. The police will put down their guns and they will say, no, these people are not fighting for themselves, they're actually fighting for the country. And as we are also part of that country, politicians cannot reduce our police force again. There's a point Amerix raised, and I agree with it totally. We are going through the third and final liberation. And all Kenyans need to understand that. This is the third and final liberation, the economic liberation of man. We got our first liberation in 1963 when we attained independence. And that was purely a case of black people, Kenyans, electing their own to lead them. Then beyond that, we never got full political independence. And that is why the Matibas, the Rubias, Orengos, Railas, Muites went out to the streets to agitate for the repeal of Section 2A. They got those political rights, and I do believe, as guided by my party leader, that our political quest was settled in the year 2010 when we got our new constitution and we established the systems of government and we established the Bill of Rights for the first time in our constitution. What we are going through now is there's been an attempt to claw back on those political rights, but those attempts, as witnessed from even the Supreme Court decision in 2017 nullifying Uhuru Kenyatta's theft, and certain decisions that have come from the courts have been very progressive. But don't for a moment think that the judiciary as a whole is open to this. Of course, there are some elements in the judiciary who will still try to claw back and try to eat back on people's rights. You witnessed, for example, when we were doing the housing levy case last year, and Justice Sunday very courageously issued an order to stop the collection of that levy. The Court of Appeal followed up, and even when they had the appeal, they said, no, this levy is illegal, you cannot collect it. But William Ruto and his people proceeded to collect the housing levy using what they are calling the Affordable Housing Act. Now, remember this. At the time when the levy was introduced in Parliament through the finance bill, there was no, and the court stopped it. They had collected money almost 6 months into the financial year. They retained that money. They will be returning that money to all Kenyans who paid it, so that even if their new act were to pass, the collections should be in the coming financial year, not backwards. And look at what they did to Justice Sunday. Within 2 weeks of a decision, she was transferred to Malindi to become the judge there, removed from the Constitutional Division here in Nairobi. And they hope that they are going to get judges who will be acting as gatekeepers when action is brought against executive excesses. We cannot relent. We will follow all these judges and make sure that they live true to our constitution. The final point I want to make, Amerix, is this. No, maybe before the final one. Let me tie it to what you said. In this citizens' conversation, we must, at the point of electing a new leadership, make sure that we are also clear on the system of governance. Are we being undermined by the party system so that when people are elected, they are more beholden to their political party than to the people who elected them? Look at William Ruto and his Kenya Kwanza members of parliament. First, they go to parliament. Kenyans give them their views. 99% of the memorandum and the people appear before them tell them this finance bill is bad, reject it. They ignore. In fact, Kimani of Molo has the audacity to say we will not even touch that question of motor vehicle circulation tax. That thing must be in that bill. They proceed to pass it. Then upon the people of Kenya putting pressure and William Ruto, even in people invading parliament, William Ruto decides to renege. Then he calls those members of parliament, and you see all of them clapping behind him, gleefully happy, and saying that that's a good decision he has made to reject. Why did we have to lose more than 39 Kenyans to get to that space? Anybody who is occupying a position of leadership, a position in trust, to whom at least 39 Kenyans must die before his wrong can be corrected, does not deserve to sit in any public office in this country. Those members of parliament are cast, and I cast them. And I say this, Kenyans must continue denying them audience in whatever space they appear, because they are no longer representing the collective will of the people who voted them. And I want to urge us, sometimes I see some of our compatriots attacking those who voted for Kenya Kwanza or those who voted for some of these MPs. The fact that somebody voted for Kenya Kwanza or an MP, don't take it that he is now beholden to that person. When somebody has withdrawn his vote, his support, we urge them to join the movement, because our enemy is not that person who voted. Maybe he was misled. He was lied to on election day. But now he has seen the folly of his ways and he has seen through. It's even encouraged that when somebody recalls his vote and says that this MP is no longer representing what I voted for, that is a person that becomes an ally, and you help him in his fight against his MP. So let's avoid cross party or cross-voting attacks against each other. Our common enemy is William Ruto and Kenya Kwanza. Those are the people who have put us in this pain. The final point I want to make, and I hope my leader, Jimmy, I had Amerix, you try mentioning him if he could join. The question that we are facing as a country, which William Ruto and his people are trying to avoid dealing with, is the question of debt. These people took debt from the year 2014. Part of that debt didn't land in Kenya. I'll pick the Eurobonds, for example. They took $2 billion Eurobond. At that time, Jacob Juma, there's a gentleman, I think it's called Owiti, and even David Ndii was in that group. ODM convened them, and they went through to trace the movement of that money. And right at that point, even threatened to lead Kenyans to storm Treasury building, to release where the money went. Upon that threat, Treasury released the first proof of payment. They released the RTGS form, which showed $1 billion US dollars was used to settle part of a loan that would be taken by Kibaki, and part of that money was paid into a CBK account. Correct, accounted for. The second part, $1 billion US dollars, at that time is almost 100 billion Kenya shillings. When they demanded for the information to be released, they released a form. It's in the public domain to date. And that form shows money moving from JP Morgan to another bank, and the account to which it is going in Qatar is redacted. You cannot see the name of the person to whom that money is being made. That is $1 billion US dollars in your debt books. In other words, somebody went to America or to the European market and took a Eurobond of $2 billion US dollars in your name. He made you to be responsible for paying that debt. And he did not apply that money to any project in Kenya. He did not procure parliamentary approval for that money. But what the Kenyan people ended up with is a responsibility to pay for that money. We did pay for that money sometimes, I think it was in end of June. And at that time, now when we were paying for it, we refinanced it. We took a fresh one at an interest rate of 10.35%. At the time of taking in 2014, the interest rate was 6%. And there are so many other such loans which are taken in our name. If you go to our PFM Act, it is very clear. You can only borrow money for a project. You only borrow money for development. You are seeing Kenyan government every day issuing, every week they issue treasury bonds and bills. They're telling you this bond and bill is going to finance which project. You are just saying 20 billion floated. People take out that loan and they come back to you. When the bank takes the business, they are using money, using my money that I have deposited in the bank. Then they go to my government to take a treasury bill or bond that is not pegged on any project. Government takes it to eat it. Once they eat that money, the government comes to me and you and collects an exorbitant interest rate to pay for that loan. Now, interest rate is at 16%. When they take that interest rate of 16%, they do two things. Number one, you are burdened with the high interest rate that you're going to pay from your tax money. And number two, even if you wanted to do your own project as an individual, they know here I wanted to go and expand his food business. He goes to the bank tells him, they know, I will only give you a loan at an interest rate of 22%. Why? Because the bank prefers to lend money to government because government will pay for that money and will come back to the people of Kenya as a sovereign to cushion it. They know it's seen as now a credit risk. In fact, you're not even wanted in that banking space. Now, many Kenyans cannot access capital because of government borrowing illegally in the domestic market, burdening Kenyans with high interest rates and denying them an opportunity to even borrow for their own private ventures. That is why we are not seeing any development. What today, as we speak, what is stimulating development in this country? If government is not doing any project, where's the flow of money? When I'm not putting up, expanding my law firm, or somebody is not expanding his business, where's the flow of money? Because I go to a bank to take a loan to put up a fish farm in Kisumu. That bank will tell me they want an interest rate of 20%, 25%. Why? Because government is borrowing at 16%, 17%. They rather lend to government. Now, I cannot access that credit. The government money that was borrowed was used to Fuliza, to eat. It was not used to build a road, to build a bridge, to build a dam. It was all eaten. So we must be very careful as a country and decide, number one, any money that has been borrowed in our names that was not done in a way that conforms with our laws, that money, we have no responsibility to pay for it. It is an odious debt. If we go that route, and I do remember when I was in Mozambique, when President Nyusi had just been elected, there was something that had been taken similar to our Eurobond. It was called tuna bond. Again, $2 billion that was taken in the name of the people of Mozambique. The money never came into Mozambique. They were only told to pay for it. So some public-spirited members of the public, civil society groups, went to court, and they sued the Attorney General and their parliament. Their parliament was saying, that tuna bond is legal, we must pay for it. The AG was saying, that tuna bond must be paid for. But the people of Mozambique were saying, no. Where was parliamentary approval for tuna bond to be taken? Bring it to court, none existed. The court in Mozambique said, that loan is illegal, it is odious, and the people of Mozambique will not have to pay for it. Do you know what happened? Credit Suisse collapsed. They had to pay that money. So even as we must look into our debt books and say, anybody who took money in our name without following our laws, you took money that didn't apply to any project. It is not the responsibility of the people of Kenya to pay for that loan. We must unshackle ourselves from this yoke of oppression, both internationally and locally. Internationally, they're the Eurobonders, that is the Paris Club, the London Sovereign Group. Locally are the domestic banks. We must start asking them, when you are taking a loan from the Kenyan government, what is the project that that loan is funding, number one? Number two, where is the parliamentary approval for that loan that allows government to float a bond or a bill? You saw William Ruto last week on TV when he was saying, because you rejected the finance bill, I will now borrow 1 trillion Kenya shillings. I mean, how can someone casually commit the people of Kenya to take a loan of 1 trillion Kenya shillings? He's not even told you what loan, what project does he want to fund. He's not even told you where the parliamentary approval, but he's telling you, I'm going to take a loan of 1 trillion Kenya shillings. You people of Kenya, you must pay for it. You must tell him, no, we are a country of the rule of law. The sovereign people of Kenya have even said in rejecting the finance bill, if you think that this country will only develop through loans, then suspend that development. We don't need it at this particular point, because you are taking these loans and applying it to things that don't matter to the people. You are not building any new road. You are not building any new bridge. You are not building any new dam. So we must be able to call him to order. Another thing that I must mention, this space that we occupy, we must jealously guard it. When William Ruto came to space last week, he was not coming to space because he loves this space. No, he was coming here to take it over. They've been the kings of the streets, because on the streets they are able to manipulate our young people. They are able to pay some people to disrupt, to control the political conversation. But on the social media, he does not have control over this particular platform. This is a citizen's platform, and this platform must be guarded and protected to posterity. Any politician who will come here, or who will come to leadership in this country, even myself who has said I should be compared with Rigathi Gachagua, I believe I'm a better deputy president than him, if the time came. That politician must be told, you are not coming here to be our boss. You are coming into public space to be our servant, and you must be reporting back to the Kenyan people on space. You must hear that bullshit that they tell you every day. You must hear when they tell you, fuck off. You must hear it. You must respond to everything they're saying, whether you like it or not. I may not agree to the use of a particular type of language, but the Kenyan people who have put you in an office have a right to express themselves in the best way that they know how. If somebody's best way to express himself to say fuck off, then you must fuck off and listen to him. You must give him the respect to express himself, and you must do that which you believe is going to give him dignity when it comes to the governance. And finally, the point that you raised, Amerix, I say this: we must focus on the prize. The prize is a better governance. Kenya Kwanza may not give us that governance. And I urge our people, do not despair. When you see a regime using all the arsenals and all the tools that have been used before, just know that you're doing the right thing. They started with the police. The Kenyan people overwhelmed the police with love. They tried tear gas, they tried water cannons. It was overwhelming. They went for the army. You are told now the army is out on the streets. The Kenyan people are overwhelming the army with love. Because these are people who are just appearing with water bottles and flags, saying, we are fighting for a better Kenya. Now they've resorted to the last arsenal that's normally used by falling regimes, is to start getting goons to infiltrate, try to buy some who are perceived to be the spear leaders or the ringleaders of the people. That is not a leader, Amerix is not a leader, there is not a leader, Nyakundi is not a leader, Otero was not a leader. There is nobody who is leading this thing. So they are finding it difficult to infiltrate. They will take one today, Osama today, but tomorrow a new Osama is going to be born. You will find another, in fact, you kill one Osama, you take one Osama, 100 Osamas appear immediately to fill that gap. So we must guard this space jealously. Don't even spend too much energy crying over the fallen soldiers who will have been bought by the regime. Our tears should only be reserved for those of our Kenyans who've been killed, the Rex, the Besleys, the Dr. Margarets, who died when fighting for a better Kenya for all of us. So let us please focus and let us make sure that we do not relent. And to our members of parliament, some of them who may be on this platform, you must now understand one thing. Power is in the hands of the people. Don't vote as a robot, that something is brought before you and just vote. Sometimes you may have made a mistake. And I always say, when somebody makes a mistake, I'll forgive you the first time. But your conduct post that mistake. If, for example, the conflict of interest bill that was passed by Senate, if some members feel that they never fully understood it, nothing stops you from bringing an amendment bill or even introducing amendments that furthers the good of the people. Take it back to Senate. Let us stop spending too much energy explaining ourselves out there for action that you've done on the floor of the House and you're not correcting it. I, as a person, I have no faith at all in our parliament. In fact, where I sit, I believe when the Kenyan people occupied parliament, we were done with the parliament. And nothing will come out of that parliament that is for the benefit of the people of Kenya. We are done with it. Our next phase was to occupy State House, which William Ruto stopped by bringing the army and the goons to infiltrate. An occupation of State House does not in any way mean an insurgency or a coup. It simply means the Kenyan people want a civil conversation on the manner in which they are going to be led. And let us not, when people say, I'm going to occupy parliament, we must, or I'm going to occupy State House, we must be very careful not to start sending fear or encouraging the police or the army to use guns. When somebody says we are going to occupy parliament, what you should be doing is asking the police, asking the parliamentary leadership, can you make sufficient arrangements for the group that is coming, that there is security for the members, there is security for the protester, who has the right under Article 37 to protest. When he comes to parliament, he is given a chance, he is given an opportunity to express himself. If you are going to set the parameter to be the gates of parliament, set it to be the gates of parliament. If it's going to be the lawns of parliament, set it to be the lawns of parliament. But you cannot say, if you come to parliament, we will kill you. And to say this, for these policemen who are currently being misused by the political administration to cause deaths, I've been in a case, the Vipendo case, and in that case, we are suing policemen. We are suing former commanders, OCSS in Kisumu, the ones who killed protesters. They even clobbered baby Pendo, a 2-month-old baby in her coat, baby coat. They killed that baby. Today we are in court. I've looked at all those policemen in the eye. I've seen the fright in their faces. They are being charged for crimes against humanity. They are being charged under the Crimes Act. And their charging has been approved by the DPP. Those people are now crying in the Constitutional Court, asking, pleading not to be allowed to take plea. So even to Komi, even to Ngei, when you are deploying police and you're encouraging the killing of Kenyans, Please, note, when the time comes for you to answer for that, William Kimani Chungwa, Ndindi Nyoro, or whoever you think is now sending you to do these things, protecting you, will not be there. You will carry your cross alone. Yebei is in court crying today over Baby Pendo. He is facing his day to answer to those charges. And we must document all these atrocities. The beauty is that criminal law, there is no limitation of action. I can sue you today, I can sue you tomorrow, I can even sue you 10 years today, even 30 years today. I can even wait for you to retire before I take you to court. And you will be called to answer to these charges. So anybody who's listening to me, if you come across any police atrocity, any misconduct a unit sent, just collect the evidence. They may have the gun today, they may have the power today, but tomorrow they will not be holding that office. They will be called to account. And we must use all avenues available. I know there's a team of Kenyans who've even thought of going to the ICC so that the states can open an inquiry into Kenya, because what we witnessed, this is not police controlling riots or demonstrations. This is a case where somebody has issued an order to the police to go out to civilian population and to exterminate them. When you have men wearing balaclavas and running around in a double cabin pickup, and they're covering their faces, carrying assault weapons, that is a death squad. That is no longer about controlling crowds. That's no longer about providing police. And those are issues that we must take up to either our local courts or even higher courts. And we must push to the end. We cannot at any point, even me if I fall down and die today, this movement that the people of Kenya have started is bigger than me. It is bigger than William Ruto. It is bigger than Gachagua. It is bigger than anybody who has occupied this political space or anybody who has ever represented the people of Kenya. We must now give the people the right to determine their destiny, and that opportunity is here. Thank you very much, Amerix and the host. Unless there's any question, I'll hand over back the mic. Thank you.
All right. I have learned a lot. Thank you very much, Wakili, for that. I want